Welcome to Hired in IT. Our mission is simple: help you build the skills that employers actually want. Whether you're trying to land your first IT job, switch careers, earn a promotion, or increase your salary, we're here to help. Every video is thoroughly researched and designed to make complex IT topics easy to understand. If there's an IT topic you'd like us to cover, leave a comment below. We may turn your suggestion into our next video. Turning IT knowledge into career opportunities. Maya is a senior developer with 10 years of experience. Her resume was spotless. Modern design, quantified achievements, the perfect fit for the role. But the AI screening tool automatically rejected her before a single recruiter laid eyes on it. Not because she was unqualified, but because the parser read her two-column layout as incoherent nonsense. This isn't a bug. It's how NLP models actually process text. And in this video, we're exposing exactly why resume screening AI fails, and the practical steps you can take to make sure your profile survives the first 60 seconds. By the end of this video, you'll be able to do 3 things. First, explain how Azure's NLP text analytics, sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, and named entity recognition, plus QnA Maker, now called custom question answering, work together behind a recruiter bot. Second, adjust your resume's layout and language to score high on modern NLP-based parsers, because a low parsing score means your application is dead on arrival. And third, you'll build a mini screening pipeline that detects and redacts personally identifiable information before any document enters a knowledge base. Here, the exact step an insurance company skipped that caused a massive HR data leak. The vast majority of enterprise data is unstructured: HR documents, support tickets, call transcripts, and yes, resumes. Recruiters manually wade through mountains of free-form text, wasting hours that NLP could reclaim. But the hidden cost is even bigger. Many resumes never reach a human. They're rejected by parsing models that can't read a 2-column layout or a graphic. That's the blind spot we're going to fix. Think of NLP as the engine that turns human language into machine-readable structure. The Displayer team put it perfectly. If text analytics is a car, NLP is the engine. The pipeline starts with raw text, your resume. That text gets broken into tokens, individual words or phrases. The system then tags each token's part of speech, extracts entities like dates and company names, and finally scores the overall sentiment. All of this happens in milliseconds, and its accuracy directly determines whether the recruiter bot sees a competent professional or jumbled noise. 3 Azure AI language capabilities decide your fate in an automated screening system. First, sentiment analysis. The model analyzes the tone of your bullet points. Positive, confident language scores higher. Second, key phrase extraction automatically surfaces skills and concepts. So even if you don't put Python in a keyword section, the model still detects it from context. And third, entity recognition identifies company names, dates, and locations, populating the candidate profile with structured data the recruiter can search. Together, they build the picture the AI uses to rank you. A mid-sized European insurer built an HR benefits bot using QnA Maker. They fed it 10 years of internal email chains and SharePoint documents, including private HR case notes. Within a month, an employee discovered that asking about maternity leave returned snippets containing colleagues' names, salary grades, and medical conditions. The bot had learned to surface the most semantically similar paragraph, regardless of confidentiality. The same risk exists with resumes. If you build a screening index without running personally identifiable information, PII detection first, a simple query about compensation could expose a candidate's past salary or social security number. The lesson is brutal. PII filtering isn't optional. It's the first step before indexing any document. Old applicant tracking systems relied on exact keyword matching. If the job description said Python and your resume didn't, you were invisible. Modern semantic NLP works differently. It represents sentences as numerical vectors, embeddings, that capture context and meaning. So a bullet like built scalable data pipelines with Python and Spark can still match a role asking for big data because the model understands related concepts. This means your bullet points need to be dense with real achievements, not just stuffed with buzzwords. Most modern ATS platforms assign a hidden parsing score, a measure of how cleanly the system extracted text and data from your resume. A plain text file scores very high. A single-column clean design still decent, but a fashionable multi-column template with graphics? It crashes down significantly. That low score means the model barely understands your experience, and your application gets dumped in the rejection pile before the recruiter's morning coffee. Knowing this metric is the first step to controlling it. One more quick check-in. What's the hidden risk of feeding raw HR documents into a QnA Maker index without pre-processing? Pause and think. The answer: it can expose personally identifiable information like salary data and social security numbers because the bot may return the most semantically similar paragraph with no awareness of confidentiality. Make sure that's clear before we move on. Here's what actually reaches the recruiter's screen. This is a simulated ATS dashboard. The system has ingested a beautifully designed two-column resume, but the AI-generated summary shows garbled nonsense like proficient in jQuery, 1998 Stanford. When the recruiter clicks to expand, they see an unstructured block of text where the education dates are fused with skill keywords and random icons. The human never sees your masterpiece, only the hallucinated output the parser produced. And that is enough to move your application straight to no longer in consideration. Watch what happens when we feed a two-column resume to Azure AI Language's key phrase extraction. After basic PDF text extraction, sections often merge into a single, confusing string. For example, headers and skills become inseparable, so the API may return meaningless phrases that mix categories with raw data. That's the gibberish recruiters see. Your multi-column design is invisible to the AI. It only understands linear, clean text. Now let's compare. On the left, a designer's dream, gorgeous skill bars and star ratings. On the right, single-column plain text bullets. The parser can see the left as indecipherable symbols, black squares, empty squares, random Unicode. It struggles to extract meaning, often losing key skills entirely. Meanwhile, the plain bullets on the right are read clearly. Complete sentences with strong skill mentions. The moral? Pretty is the enemy of legible. Here's a hex dump of a Word-generated resume. Look for the 3-byte sequence E288B. That's a 0 width space, UPOLS200B. To a human, invisible. To an NLP tokenizer, such hidden characters can break words into fragments, making it harder for entity recognition to identify skills like Python. On top of that, unusual control characters such as bare carriage return and line feed sequences can confuse text parsers and sometimes trigger content moderation filters, potentially flagging your resume before a recruiter reads it. Those invisible formatting quirks don't just lower your score, they can get your entire submission tossed. Checkpoint. Name 2 common resume design choices that cause lower NLP parser scores. The answer: multi-column layouts and non-standard fonts or graphics. Both produce raw text that's unreadable by the parser, lowering your confidence score. Keep that in mind as we build your new resume format. Modern ATS pipelines use Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG. The job description is converted into an embedding vector, a high-dimensional numerical fingerprint. Your resume is chunked into paragraphs, each also embedded. Then a vector search finds the top K paragraphs most similar to the job description. Finally, an LLM generates a fit score based on those paragraphs. Notice, there's no keyword counting anywhere. It's all about semantic proximity. So if your bullet points are garbled by mixed columns, they'll never land in those top K results. Imagine these skills plotted in a 2D vector space. Python and machine learning sit right next to each other. Java and Spring Boot cluster together across the room. A resume bullet that says, "Led a 6-person Python team," creates a vector that pulls toward both Python and leadership. A much richer embedding than the single word Python. That's why plain lists of keywords give you weaker matches than context-rich, densified bullets. You want the AI to see you in multiple clusters at once. That old trick of pasting a white-on-white list of keywords at the bottom of your resume. Today, many parser systems and content safety filters can detect attempts to hide text. They scan for hidden text and abnormal patterns, and if detected, your entire submission may be rejected, often without the recruiter ever seeing your name. The algorithm treats it like a suspicious document. So delete that invisible block of buzzwords right now. Let's do a live extraction. I'll upload a fashionable 2-column resume to Azure Document Intelligence. When the raw text comes back, watch what happens. The name and contact info from the left sidebar get spliced into the middle of the work experience section. The dates appear before the degrees. The skills list is no longer grouped. This is exactly what the AI parser feeds into the embedding model. And this is why you need a linear, single-column layout from day one, so the extraction looks exactly like what you intended. Here's the part almost everyone gets wrong. The NLP models screening you are trained on massive datasets of real job descriptions, and their biases are baked in. If the training data for a given role tends to contain language more associated with one group, the embeddings may favor those patterns. Understanding these biases helps you write in a way that the algorithm reads your true merit. So here's a concrete action. Run one of your bullet points through Azure Language's sentiment endpoint and check the positivity score. If the score misaligns with your intended tone, adjust the language until the algorithm reflects your actual achievement. Understanding the model's bias isn't about blaming the tool. It's about making sure your resume shows what you really bring to the table. So here's your first rule. Single column, linear, markdown. When you move from a fancy template to a plain text resume and run entity extraction, you'll often see a dramatic improvement in how well the NLP pipeline correctly identifies skills, education, and experience. The headers get classified without fail, and the parsed structure is clean. This one formatting change can be the difference between a resume that confuses the parser and one that's easily understood. Commit to it. The AI sees your headers as navigation. Plain labels like "experience" tell the model exactly where to start segmenting your background. Fancy icons or custom fonts? They become noise. Let's see how Azure Language's key phrase extraction reacts to two versions of the same resume. On screen is a Python snippet that calls the key phrases endpoint. The first resume uses clean markdown headers. The second replaces them with emoji-laden alternatives. Watch the difference. The clean version surfaces structured phrases like Python team and computer science, while the fancy one may mislabel the header as a random key phrase, making the resume harder to parse. That's your resume being misread before a recruiter ever sees it. Let's quantify what densification does. A bullet that says, "Worked on cloud projects" tells the NLP parser almost nothing. But reduced AWS EC2 costs by 40% for a 200-instance fleet drops measurable entities. AWS EC2 costs, a percentage, fleet size, and even implicit technologies. That's semantic densification, packing each bullet with entities, quantities, and action verbs so the retrieval model has far more concrete hooks to match against a job description. That makes the difference between being invisible and being ranked as a top match. Pause and reinforce the most direct diagnostic you now have. If you can't answer this, go back and try the exercise. Let's lock in the most critical formatting rule. If you remember only one thing from this section, make it this. Remember the earlier risk of feeding raw documents into a QnA Maker knowledge base? To avoid exposing PII, you must run detection first. On screen, we're sending a sample resume to Azure Language's PII endpoint. The response identifies the social security number, email, and phone number with category labels and confidence scores, so you can redact them before indexing. This isn't optional. It's the difference between a helpful recruiter bot and a data breach that could land your company in front of a regulator. The insurer's bot could have been saved by active learning. In QnA Maker, active learning watches how users phrase their questions. When it spots variations in phrasing that lead to the same answer, it suggests those as alternate questions for you to approve. This closes the gap between how you wrote the Q&A pair and how a real human asks the question. No magic threshold, just steady improvement. Time to lock that in. How does modern semantic NLP differ from old keyword matching when screening resumes? Pause. The answer. It uses numerical vectors that capture meaning, so a bullet about scalable data pipelines can match a job asking for big data. Concepts, not just words. Quick recap. What's a hidden ATS parsing score? Pause. It's a measure of extraction quality. Multi-column templates cause it to crash, meaning your resume may never reach a human. Keep that in mind. Quick checkpoint. What's the #1 formatting rule for an NLP-friendly resume? Pause. It's single-column, linear, markdown. That keeps your content in order and lets the pipeline identify sections correctly. A candidate writes, "Expert in scheduling productive meetings," with heavy sarcasm after a rotten job. The Azure Language Service Sentiment endpoint scans the words expert, productive. It sees positive language, assigns a high confidence score, and flags this as a great bullet. The recruiter sees an enthusiastic team player. The NLP model doesn't hear the eye roll. It analyzes words in isolation, not the tone of voice or real-world context. That's why the single most important rule for surviving AI resume screening is this. Write unambiguous, literal bullets. Sarcasm, humor, and irony will be taken at face value, and they'll hurt you. Last checkpoint. What does semantic densification mean for a resume bullet? Pause. It means packing it with concrete numbers, named technologies, and strong action verbs. So the embedding model has plenty of hooks to rank your resume higher. Let's step back and see the whole machine. A candidate's resume enters Azure Document Intelligence, which extracts raw text. That text flows into Azure AI language for key phrase extraction, entity recognition, and PII redaction. The clean, structured snippets are vectorized and stored in a search index. When a recruiter types a query like 3 years Python healthcare, the vector DB retrieves the most semantically similar chunks. Custom question. Answering. The modern QnA Maker uses those chunks to craft a coherent answer. Finally, a Power BI dashboard tracks parsing scores and sentiment trends so you can see if your resume improvements are actually working. Every component we've talked about plugs into this one pipeline. Here's your practical, no-fluff engineering audit routine. First, export your resume as raw plain text. No PDFs, no word formatting. Second, feed that text into Azure Language's key phrase endpoint and log every entity you get. Third, always run PII detection. Redact phone numbers, emails, and anything you wouldn't want a bot to see. Fourth, confirm your section headers are boring, standard, and machine-readable. Fifth, use a mock ATS scoring tool, there are open-source ones on GitHub, to get a numeric parsing score. Sixth, set a recurring calendar event to re-audit monthly. These 6 steps turn resume optimization from a one-time panic into an engineered pipeline. Here's the brutal truth. On the left is what a recruiter sees when a candidate's multi-column, graphically rich resume gets mangled by the text extraction process. Jumbled words, hallucinated degrees, and 0 usable entities. The AI summary is nonsense, and the candidate is rejected by an algorithm that never saw their real skills. On the right is the output from a plain, single-column version of the same experience. Clean bullets, high entity count, accurate sentiment, and a recruiter-friendly summary. The only difference was the formatting pipeline. This is why we obsess over raw text extraction. That clean output is your only chance to get past the machine and into a human's hands. We covered a ton of ground today. Let's boil it down to 3 career-changing rules. Number 1. NLP-powered ATS systems require clean, linear text. Visual gimmicks destroy your parsing score and guarantee your resume lands in the reject pile. Number 2. PII detection is not a nice-to-have. The same privacy catastrophe that took down an insurer's chatbot will happen to your knowledge base if you skip the PII endpoint. Number 3. You must treat your resume as a living engineering asset. Test, densify, and retest quarterly against the same language services you now understand. Master these 3, and you're not just optimizing a document. You're future-proofing your entire career. Now that you can build a QnA Maker knowledge base and understand the NLP engine behind it, the next challenge is putting it all into a real conversational flow. In the next video, part 8 of this series, we tackle conversational AI, chatbots that handle real-world HR and support scenarios without hallucinating answers or leaking data. You'll see how to wire your custom question answering project to a live chat interface and test it against tricky, multi-turn questions. That's where the bot actually starts earning its keep. Grab a coffee, then hit the next video. I'll see you there. Remember, careers aren't built by watching videos. They're built by applying what you learn. Pick one thing from today's lesson, build it, document it, and share it. That's how you get hired. Thanks for watching Hired in IT. where we're turning IT knowledge into career opportunities.